Good morning. We'll call the meeting to order. We have an agenda before us. Does anybody have any additions or changes? Yes,
Yes, I have two additions to the agenda under 5.4, Planning and Development, and under 5.5, Planning and Development.
And I have an addition under 3.1B, ratify council attendance at meetings, and a second addition under 4.2, Rocky Ford correspondence. Any further additions or changes?
Yeah, I'd like to add an in-camera for Wademza, I guess. Just call it Wademza.
Anything else? A motion to approve the agenda? All in favor? Motion is carried. We have a public hearing scheduled for 9 a.m. I move that the process for the Wheatland County Council meeting as it pertains to the scheduled public hearings will be as follows. Public hearing, first reading if required, then consideration for further readings of the bylaw for those public hearings that have been closed. I further move that the above process will take place with the absence of resolutions to go into and out of council before and after each public hearing. All in favor? Motion is carried. I'll call the public hearing for bylaw 2017-40 to order. To order.
Good morning, Council. This is an RFD for a public hearing for bylaw 2017-40. It's to redesignate 156.77 acres from agricultural general to direct control with a proposed DC district DC 16 for the purposes of the standard colony. Staff recommendation is that Council undertake the public hearing. Some of the key issues for this particular application, it's located on the southeast 23, 25, 21. The intent of a direct control is to provide specific regulations to developments that are proposed on the land that are not currently found together with existing districts in the land use bylaw. As a result, this particular application is addressing some of the colony needs through site-specific regulation. Currently, they are maintained under agricultural general. However, there are a number of uses that they would like to maintain and use in the future that are not found in the ag general district. Some of these include a worship facility, communal childcare, school colony, dwelling multi-unit, and townhouse. By providing the colony the opportunity to become a direct control district, they're able to continue functioning legally and conforming with the current land use bylaw through this direct control, as well as the ability for them to come in and apply for permits for dwellings or other functions such as the schools and communal childcare to again make sure that they are compliant with the land use bylaw. So under the specific regulations, we have the regional growth management strategy, the municipal development plan, and the land use bylaw for direct control district, as well as agricultural general. With that being said, if council goes through with the public hearing, staff will present the RFD for second and third reading if council approves. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any member of the public have an objection to any councillor sitting on council for the public hearing? And I apologize, can you just confirm that notification was done as required?
Yes, notification was done to landowners within a mile of the within the proposed parcel here.
Thank you. Does the applicant wish to speak? Anybody in support of the application who would like to speak? Anybody with concerns or opposed to the application who would like to speak? Any final comments from staff?
Staff personally don't have any comments. It should be noted that there were also no comments received from the public in objection or support of the application, and that was reflected in the report as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I will close the public hearing for bylaw 2017-40. Council's wishes for further readings. Second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consideration of third reading.
Third and final reading.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I'll open the public hearing for bylaw 2019-03. I think administration has looked into it and they can't address it today, but they do have somebody scheduled to come in and address it.
Can we turn it down? Like, can we-
Let's take a 2-minute break and just see if there's a way to turn it down. Perfect. I think they just need 1 minute. Matt said just 1 minute. Just 1 more minute? Okay. Right. We'll call the meeting back to order, and I will open the public hearing for bylaw 2019-03. Good morning.
Good morning. So this is for bylaw 2019-03. I did receive a letter last Friday. I'm going to ask Odessa to hand it out for me. So the purpose of this application is to redesignate plus or minus 5 acres from agricultural general to country residential in the southwest of 2024-25 west of the 4th. So it's staff recommendation that council undertake the public hearing for bylaw 2019-03. So the purpose of this application is to redesignate a portion of the parent parcel from agricultural general to country residential in order to facilitate a future subdivision application. If council grants this redesignation, the applicant will submit a subdivision application for plus or minus 5 acres. The portion the applicant is requesting to redesignate has an existing residential development on it. The remnant parcel will remain agricultural general. The proposed redesignation generally aligns with the SSRP, RGMS, and MDP. All 3 of these plans discourage fragmentation and conversion of agricultural land. However, as the proposal is to redesignate an existing farmstead to facilitate the subdivision of it, the effects of fragmentation are not likely to be beyond what are currently existing. Landowners within a mile of the parent parcel were circulated. However, we did receive a letter this Friday, so that's not correct. No comments were received. No objections were received from external agencies, and the county's development department made a comment on the side yard setbacks from the sheds, which was relayed to the applicant. Would council like me to read the letter out, or did they get a chance to read it?
Has everybody had an opportunity to read the letter that was circulated? We'll just take 1 more minute. I think we're okay. We've all had a chance to read it. Thank you.
Perfect. So this is the area plan here, the aerial imagery, just 5 acres out of the existing 4D. The land use context, so you can see that there are a couple of other smaller parcels in the area, but for the most part, it's all agriculture. and then the circulation area. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? Would anyone in support of the application like to speak? Anybody with concerns who is opposed to the application? Does staff have any final comments?
I do not know.
Thank you. With that, we'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2019-03. Consideration for second and third readings. Any questions or discussion?
Just to comment, I believe we've not discussed that certain area of the county, but definitely I would say we've talked about the urban-rural sprawl that we have in the county, and I would rather, as an ag producer and person that lives in the east, I would rather see it located within a certain amount of distance from Strathmore or the other hamlets. And we've already indicated with the subdivisions that are approved there, that that is a place that we would rather see acreage growth rather than out in my neck of the woods or Glen. So the reason I'll support this is because it's already, though we didn't say that that's going to be the place for acreages, our planning has showed it. So I will be supporting Tom's motion.
I think the questions raised are broader too, and ones that we've discussed that we need to bring up, like when we're looking at the MDP and updating our land use bylaw and that type of thing, because there's definitely some considerations that we need to make for that. Are there any further questions or discussion? All in favor of the motion? Opposed? Motion is carried. Consideration for third and final reading.
I'll move third and final.
Questions or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. I will reopen the public hearing for bylaw 2019-11.
Good morning again. So the purpose for bylaw 2019-11 is to amend the West Highway 1 Area Structure Plan, bylaw number 2006-05, to include primary commercial uses within the Origin Business Park area, to add map B, identifying the Origin Business Park area, and to make additional amendments to make the whole of the WASP consistent with the aforementioned additions. It is staff recommendation that council reopen and undertake the public hearing. So the purpose of the amendment is to allow the primary commercial uses, as stated previously. Attached to the report includes the new map, or map B, Origin Business Park location, and outlines the proposed changes of the WASP. The public hearing was originally open on April 16th, 2019, but as circulation wasn't completed according to Land Use Bylaw 2016-01, the public hearing was recessed until today in order to fulfill those requirements. Staff has received 3 letters in regards to the amendment, which are included in the package. So these are the different circulation areas, so within the county, within Rocky View, and within Strathmore. And then these are the letters. Would council like staff to read these letters, or did they have a chance to look at them?
Has the council read the package?
All good?
We're good,
Okay.
thank you.
Awesome, that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak? We just opened it and recessed it because of circulation. Good morning.
Good morning,
If you can
Reuben Council.
just introduce yourself.
My name is Steve Grandy, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. I'm going to be very brief because, wow, you run a tight ship here, right? Everything moves very quickly. It's really nice to see. We're here as a result of an application we made, I believe it was about a year ago, trying to get a gas station and drive-through restaurants on that second lot inside Origin Business Park. And it was determined at that time that a change of land use wasn't possible because the ASP had to be amended. There are a few little tweaks that we put into it to upgrade some of the language in the ASP, but ultimately this is just our attempt to try to get that second lot rezoned for the gas station. And I am here for any questions.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
You will have an opportunity at the end to address. Are there any persons who would wish to speak in support of the application? If you can just introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Danny Thiessen, and I was just wondering, kind of get a clarification on, does it affect the whole West Area Structure Plan? Is that what you're changing the bylaw to? Because in some places it says it's just for that area, Wheatland Area Structure Plan, and in other places it says West Area Structure Plan. So I just wonder if it's affecting the whole area or not. Like, I think it should affect the whole area. If you're going to change one part of the ASP inside of the West Area Structure Plan, it should change the whole area.
I'm just pulling up the changes. Megan, do you want to speak to that?
So the bylaw is, the whole of the WASP is being amendment. However, the amendment is only impacting this area in red, if that clarifies it a bit. Yes and no? No. So the changes that will impact the West Highway 1 Area Structure Plan will only impact these parcels within the red highlight here.
So, Mr. Thiessen, while it is the West Highway 1 Area Structure Plan that's being amended, when you read the amendments in the council package are all highlighted in yellow, and they are designated, like the proposed land use bylaw, it states that general IG district of the land use bylaw, the commercial highway district will also be implemented within Origin Business Park, so it's specified. Part of the rationale that council is basing this consideration on is that it could, because of the location of Origin Business Park, that it might be a good test for integrating some commercial into the industrial, and just to make some of our documents more consistent.
Yeah, I just think you're limiting it to one area, and I don't think that's, you should be doing that. I think the whole area should be open to that. If you're going to open it in one area, it should be opening it up to everybody. Because there's a lot of opportunities around there. The highway's going to change. The access even to that area there is going to be harder than let's say at Highway 24. That in there should be, an area that should be looked at. I think the whole area should be looked at as being opened up for commercial. It would make more sense than just having one area out,
We do appreciate your comments, and council will certainly take them into consideration. Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in support of the application? The other thing I guess that I'll note is just that this application is developer-driven, and so it has been based on kind of development that's being worked on in that area is part of the reason that it's focused in that area as well. Is there anybody else who would like to speak in support of the application? Anybody with concerns or opposed to the application? If you'd like to speak, you can come to the microphone and introduce yourself, please. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Heather Culshaw. I'm a resident in Rocky View, neighboring the business park. And I guess just with history and the past of certain things not always going the way that we appreciate and being considered, we just want to make sure that if this is the way it's going to go forward, being increased traffic and controls, that these things are all going to happen. In the past with water flow and stuff, we've often run into, I guess, roadblocks, right, where nothing really gets done, no one's held accountable. So that's just my concern, is that if we're going forward with commercial, there's going to be more traffic, there's going to be more garbage, everything, right, with a gas station, stuff like that, that we have some accountability, I guess, or just maybe recourse. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not the best at chatting like this, but that's kind of my concern about it. So I just wanted to make sure that that was said.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else who would like to speak with concerns or opposed to the application?
Hi, my name is Harold Bolt. We've been here before. We're opposite in Rocky County. And our concern is still water flow and the whole aspect of managing. If you increase hard surfacing in the area, which is paving and all the rest, that will cause more water flow. And I know there was a newspaper article that was printed after our last hearing here. It said that the canal or the pipeline to lead it away was miles away. I want to correct that. It was only 1.5 miles away from where the water comes. The other thing is we're concerned about is garbage and traffic. We already are picking up constantly. I could send you pictures. I could send this and that and everything. And I guess, I don't know, it's just frustrating to do that. The other thing is the whole aspect of the water management. I know that Michael Zier had an engineer produce a letter which was presented after we were here last time. I didn't quite understand that. But we sent a letter regarding that to you people, but we received no comment back. Is there any comments on that letter that we sent you?
Just that I would re-reference the engineering report that was prepared in response to that.
Yeah, because that engineer who did that letter made one mistake. First of all, water does not run uphill. They said it corner flooded because of the slough in the ditch. Well, that's uphill. It can't be. Can't run that way. And a number of other things that were written in there that were, you know, we actually had it where we've taken the letter and we've, well, the report, I should say, and we've had some people review it with the intent of possibly taking it to a PEGA because we don't believe that some of the things printed in there were truthful. And so we're concerned. We still are concerned, and really none of our concerns have ever been addressed in letter or verbally.
I appreciate your comments.
Anything else, huh?
If you can just come to the microphone. Thank you, Mrs. Bolt.
I just wanted to say, and I had mentioned this in the letter that we had sent, that the water, where they're putting the excess water right now is the area that they're going to develop. So they're going to develop that area. Where are they going to put the excess water where they're pumping it now from the 2 sloughs? If they pump it further south, it's just going to run down on the south side of the development. So there needs to be, the recommendation was for a 35-acre pond. Initially, that was in about 2008, and that has never been done. They need more water storage. When you look at the pond down at the bottom, the plastic is all bubbled up, and the outlet is 3 feet higher than the inlet, so even the ponds can't fill up properly to hold all the water. And then that just flows, destroying the road, coming onto our property, and we have to pump again. So there's things that need to be addressed that I think are critical before further approval. Show us your intent. Come and talk to us. Come and stand with us and look and see the concerns. And let's sit down and just chat about it. Something has to be done. And the sooner the better. You can keep throwing money at it. We can keep talking about it. But if nothing gets done, we're going to be at this impasse in 20 years. We just need to fix it.
We may not be.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Just the other thing is, there was in that engineer's report, it stated the fact that no effect had been done. If the people had only come and looked at the salinization of the soil, and I've talked to Warwick, I've talked to Bob Jackson, and they both agreed there was never any salinization there, which we have today. Thank you very much.
For your comments. Is there anybody else who would like to speak with concerns or opposed to the application? If you could just state your name, please, sir.
Hi, my name's Bob Boersema. I'm a local resident of the area. I just want to address the traffic flows. First of all, this would appear to dramatically increase the day trips into that subdivision. Is that correct?
Has there been traffic impact analysis done? No.
You're asking to put in a gas station truck stop, right?
Just to clarify, this isn't the development permit stage. So what this is this will allow for a development permit application to come in for a gas station, which is when all of these more specific studies will come in.
But you're doing, you're adjusting the West Area Structure Plan to allow many more trips than it was done originally. So now any development permit can be applied for that does that. Is that not correct?
That's any development permit for, so for a primary commercial use, such as a gas station, yes.
Okay,
Yep.
so the potential of quadrupling the day trips into that area is very real if you pass this. So having said that, before we pass this, have we communicated with Alberta Transportation? I know when the original stuff was done, they had some concerns about it, but they were promised there's going to be a low day trip.
So Alberta Transportation was circulated for this area structure plan amendment, but because it's not specific enough to a development, their comments are no comment, essentially. When it comes time to do the development permit, they will input comments for any development that happens within 800 meters of a highway. So the parcels that on the north side of the Origins Business Park would trigger a comment from Alberta Transportation.
Right, so basically what we're saying is we're going to go ahead and do the amendment to the area structure plan, and then the applicant may still not be able to put a service station in there because Alberta Transportation is going to say no. If we look at the bigger area there, any of you that drive eastbound from that area to Strathmore will know how many times you have to slow down or even slam on the brakes because a B train is crossing at Highway 24. Now we have a much smaller intersection that we're asking truckers to turn left across oncoming traffic. I'm on 264. I already see the issues we have with traffic coming from the La Alta area with all the trucks from those industries up there. And those are just literally one in and out a day. Now you're asking to cross that highway multiple times. Let's look at what happened at the high school corner on the Trans-Canada. After a couple of fatalities, we put in a big speed zone, right? Look at what happened at Paradise Road. After a fatality, the left turn lanes were cut off. The median was barricaded. Can this subdivision survive if, after a fatality, Alberta Transportation closes the median at that point, it's going to put all the traffic flow onto 264, our road, and then it's going to get closed because Alberta Transportation is only going to allow one fatality, and we're going to get it. There's no question. If you've got B trains turning across that to get into a gas station, truck stop, you're going to get fatalities on that corner. So I want you to think very carefully about that and think of whether it's worthwhile. The applicants should think whether it's worthwhile jeopardizing their whole subdivision for that, because I know there's not money to put in those service roads right now. And if you're not going to put in those service roads, you cannot increase the day trips in this area. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, sir. I will just highlight that from a planning perspective, the county did previously identify through the municipal development plan that the WASP would be an area for commercial and industrial development. So there is some historical context for the commercial consideration. Is there anybody else who would like to speak with concerns or opposed to the application? The applicant will have an opportunity to address the concerns.
Thank you. Going through, I think, 5 comments. One with respect to why we limited our application just to Origin Business Park. There was a discussion right at the beginning to just amend the whole area structure plan, and it was felt that there would be some concerns from the town of Strathmore if commercial was open to that whole stretch. In fact, at the open house that we held out in Cheadle, a couple of representatives from Strathmore did come out, and that was their concern, that this was opened, and you know, I can't speak officially for them, but I think their fears were allayed when we said, no, it's just on this end. There is many years of development to come in that whole area structure plan, and the west side, the Origin Business Park, is the one that's currently under development. At some point in the future, if development starts in another place, then those developers would have the ability to come forward and request a further amendment to the area structure plan as time goes on. In terms of some of the activity around there, I think that having more businesses present during the day is going to help with a number of things. A gas station and a drive-through, a quick service restaurant is going to be very concerned about cleanliness. And so I think as there's more activity there, the Lot Owners Association becomes active, and there is a group then that's able to address a number of things. In terms of stormwater, the engineers are currently looking at I don't know if you can see this or not, probably not, putting in the storm pond right over here. Everybody see that okay? So the planning is underway for building that third storm pond on the east side. They hope to be in the ground as quickly as possible. And then all 3 storm ponds are linked so that the water gets pumped over the top of the ridge and into that east storm pond, which is the larger one. In terms of water utility, we are looking at options for utilities, looking at a kind of an interim plan. So we do have an engineer working on an interim plan for servicing. There's some more development that is looking to come to Origin Business Park, and rather than have every single lot have their own pump in and pump out situation, we're looking at carving off or requesting carving off a public utility lot over on the west side so that we can have one larger well, 2 larger tanks. We won't mix them. 2 larger tanks on the west side to be able to deal with that. And in terms of traffic, I was hoping that I would get a text back with confirmation, but I haven't. I'm very certain that we did have a TIA update. Perhaps it was prior to our last application, but I know that there was definitely engagement with Alberta Transportation on that intersection and what the requirements were. And there was some discussion about potential lighting required, but Alberta Transportation is definitely has definitely been involved in this.
Thank you. Does staff have any final comments? I'll thank the applicant and all of the public for their submissions and their comments. With that, I'll close the public hearing for bylaw 2019-11. Council's considerations for second and third reading.
Just
Oh,
second.
second, sorry. And a submission for an interim regional evaluation framework application to the CMRB. Councillor Eichert has moved second reading. Questions or discussion?
Yeah, through the chair to the staff. When it says here that to add map B outlining the origin business plan and to make additional amendments to make the whole of the west area structure consistent, that's still to come, but they will be added so that the whole area can be.
No, so what that's stating is that the couple of amendments that they've done, we've had to amend the wording throughout the entirety of the document to make sure it doesn't go against itself. So that's what that is alluding to, that we've added a map and we've done amendments throughout the entirety of the document to make sure it's consistent with this amendment specifically to allow commercial highway use within the Origin Business Park.
So then further to that, then if somebody else wanted to do something similar to that, they would have to come in and with another ASP within the ASP to allow that?
What they could do, depending on how council felt, is we would amend the West Highway 1 area structure plan basically to take out that caveat that it's only within the origin, and that would open it up to the whole of the WASP.
So that would just take an application to amend that caveat to.
Yes.
Ben, try your microphone. Oh, sorry.
This bylaw is given second reading. The next step is, this will go before the CMRB. Has anybody tested anything in the CMRB on this second step? Like, do we know what the chances are? Has anything been turned down, been approved? So we're the number one here, so we.
Two applications have come before the CMRB. One, the consultation period, I believe, is closed, and it will be coming, I actually haven't read our package for Friday yet, but it will be coming before the board, and a second one has been circulated. But no decisions have been made at this point. Oh, one was approved, sorry. Are you certain it was approved? Our April board meeting was canceled.
It was, I'm not 100% sure on the process, but it was approved through the CMRB and through the TAG and through those folks. I don't know if the next step is for it to be approved by the land use committee. Okay.
Anyways, a couple of applications are being considered.
Well, another question through the chair to staff, and I had talked to staff last time and I haven't heard back from them, and I see that they are doing some stormwater ponding here. My question was, is there a chance that the municipality would look at the rest of that ASP and what stormwater would be stormwater planning would be needed for the rest of that, and for the municipality to move forward with installing some of that with a charge back to the future landowners that come in, so that we handle more stormwater than it's being handled now.
Through the REEV, if that's the intent of council, then we'll certainly look at it from a staff perspective.
Further discussion? There's a motion on the floor for second reading. All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. We have an update on Homesteads of Lyelta subdivision. Oh, sorry.
I'll make a motion that staff submit an interim regional evaluation framework application to the CMRB for consideration on 2019-11.
Thank you. Questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. Now we can hear an update on Homesteads of Lyalta subdivision.
Thank you. So this is an RFD for information to council. Staff is providing an update for the Homesteads of Lyalta subdivision area structure plan. On May 18th, 2019, the endorsement timeline for the applied subdivision expired and endorsement was not completed. Recommendation from staff is that council take this update as information and direct administration for future action on the Homesteads of Lyalta ASP. So just a little bit of a background and update. On May 18th, 2017, the MGB conditionally approved the Homesteads of Lyalta subdivision application following an appeal made by the applicant, subject to 29 conditions needing to be met by the developer. During the second time extension, no further documentation was presented to staff in order to meet the outstanding conditions. As a result, on May 18th, 2019, the subdivision itself was expired and endorsement was not completed. Staff was then made aware that the developer was intending to leave the endorsement period to run its course, and with the deadline passing just this past weekend. Moving forward, staff is presenting an update on the circumstances and options that council can consider for the Homesteads of Lyalta Area Structure Plan, which was adopted in 2011. So staff is advising, or at least providing the opinion that the ASP should be rescinded based on the following items. The ASP was originally adopted by council on September 6, 2011. The document is now 8 years old and would not align with county's current MDP, which was adopted in 2013. The RGMS was adopted in the same year, but slightly out of line with the ASP in 2011, and the LUB, which was recently amended in 2016. In addition, there are future intents to further amend the RGMS and MDP over the next 2 years to ensure alignment with provincial legislation and development goals of the county. This places the document even further behind compliance with municipal regulations in the county since its approval in 2011. A number of technical reports were submitted as part of the ASP and the development. Many of these are also out of date, many of them circa 2006, and will most likely run the risk of not being in alignment with current standards and practices. The age of the ASP and technical studies provided to support the document would result in staff recommendation to rewrite the document if revisited for development. This would be to ensure the proposed development is consistent with the intentions of the ASP, but also to reflect new findings of the studies and reports that would be required to be redone on account of their age. Maintaining an ASP of this age does not limit development on the land, as any future development would have to prescribe to an existing ASP in place. This would result in a freeze on the parcel for development if there is no intent to address development in the short term. At the time of the MGB hearing in December 2016, staff at the time determined that the subdivision development did not align with the existing provincial and municipal documentation. As such, leaving an ASP that supports development that no longer aligns with the county development and growth standards is not an appropriate planning strategy for future development in the county. Staff do not see the value of leaving an outdated document overlaid on lands in the county. It would be beneficial that the current ASP be rescinded and any future interest in development of the lands at the same scale be required to provide an amended or new ASP. This would allow a document of that nature to reflect the county's current development standards and requirements, current practices and standards for technical reports, and the current state of the lands. Lastly, to ensure compliance with the overarching strategic, statutory, and guiding documents that the province and county currently abides by. Council were to decide to maintain the ASP, there would be no outright negative impact on the county or the lands, only in such a way as to impact future development, and then an outdated and unused document is overlaid. No financial implications would occur for the county, rather statutory implications would be felt if future development or the current developer were to come back and reapply for subdivision. The documents would have to be redone and updated. However, the timeline is uncertain for that potential, and since the approval of the ASP in 2011 to the current date, little progress has occurred, therefore making the document unviable from a planning perspective. Just a quick summary here, the relevant policy as part of this decision making and information being provided to council includes the RGMS, MDP, Homesteads of Lyalta Area Structure Plan, the MGB board file, as well as the land use bylaw. Essentially, staff is hoping that Wheatland County Council accept this as information and that any future requirements from council to move forward on work with ASP moving forward take this information into consideration. The recommendation is not only intended to help the county council, but also to provide accountability and transparency with county ratepayers, as a major development project within the county has been in progress for some time. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or discussion?
I have a question with these outdated and unused ASPs. I think we have quite a few other ones in the county that are even older than this. I'm wondering if we should be looking at all of them instead of singling out one.
Through the chair, so we actually did some rescinding of ASPs, I believe in 2017 with a previous planner, and that was the intent, was to basically address either ASPs that have completed their development or intents, or ones that are outdated and nothing is happening. So if council would like us to go through the existing ones that are currently in play, we do still have a number of them that are out on the county. We can definitely continue that review, as we are looking at old files currently right now to make sure our filing is up to date, and that wouldn't be an overly tedious process to go through. We could definitely do that if council requests.
For myself, I think if we're going to go through this process with one, we should be looking at all of them, especially because there's other ones that are much older than this, to have some justification for doing this.
I also have to apologize. I did receive correspondence from the developers, and I neglected to notice it wasn't included. It came through the county office, but it was addressed to the Reven Council. And I would like this circulated before any decisions are made regarding this ASP. So perhaps if we could just accept the report as information, and I can ensure that this is circulated appropriately to council in our next package.
Then I'll move that we accept this report as information.
Is there any further questions or discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried. We have oh, yes.
I still think it's important that staff go over these. We're always creating new ASPs. We should make sure we're current and keep our streamlined as possible. So you have information there that could be included into the package for when we're talking about the demise of certain ASPs. I think it's important to keep our books, our content up to date. So I don't know if we need a motion to direct staff, or staff is just going to do that.
Green thing, thank you. Madam Reeve, yeah, several things. One, yeah, we continuously go through these documents and see how outdated and antiquated they are. And I think by extension, number two, as a result of undertaking major amendments coming up this summer to our MDP and our LUB, by extension, we will be reviewing those ASPs as they come along, as they're underneath that umbrella, and we will be able to make a decision and bring it forward to council as to if we look at the ASP, if it needs some major amendments or just outright repeal.
Thank you for that. There's a request for decision regarding therapy animals within a hamlet.
Good morning. So this request for decision is to allow chickens to be allowed to remain on site as therapy animals for the occupant of a residence located within the hamlet of Cheadle. The location, Plan 051-3699, Block 11, Lot 2. Staff have not made a recommendation to this request because we did not have anything in our bylaw that would support a recommendation. So I have provided options, but I'm leaving it to council to make the decision. So a complaint was made to Protective Services from a nearby resident advising that people living within the hamlet were raising chickens and roosters on their property. The complainant voiced concerns primarily with the noise of the roosters and also with the smell from the animals. peace officers referred the matter to the development officers because the land use bylaw states that farm animals or livestock are not allowed on parcels with a hamlet designation. So a warning letter was issued to the occupant, to the residents, who then contacted the development officer and advised that the 6 chickens were therapy aids, which are used to treat anxiety. They had tried to relocate the 3 roosters to another site, but due to their age, were having difficulty finding a new home for them. The resident of the home sent me an email on Friday saying that 2 of the roosters have been relocated. So maybe there's even a further update than that. That's the last I heard. So since the land use bylaw is silent with regards to therapy animals, the resident was advised to obtain a letter from a qualified professional to confirm that the animals were required for treatment of anxiety. Once the letter was obtained, the request for decision would go before council for approval. So the letter is included as Appendix C in your package. A site visit was conducted by the development officer on May 3rd, and it was noted that the rooster crowed repeatedly during the inspection. The property is a 1-acre parcel, and the residents have constructed a shelter for the animals as well as a small fence pen. So I was trying to find some precedent for this type of therapy animal, and I did find the City of Calgary has something in place under their responsible pet ownership bylaw. They do allow people to apply for this use, and they have to provide several things, including a letter from a licensed psychologist or psychiatrist, and the treatment has to be for a condition that's listed in the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders. So that's what the City of Calgary is doing currently. As you can see, our land use bylaw says no farm animals or livestock are allowed on parcels with a hamlet designation, and then there are the definitions for farm animal and livestock. So because this was not a development permit application, I did not circulate to surrounding landowners. I provided 4 options. That council approve the 6 chickens be allowed to remain on the subject parcel as long as required as therapeutic aid while the current occupants reside on the lands. Further, that any violation of any other Wheatland County bylaw related to these animals will require removal of the therapy animals from the site, and I'm thinking of the nuisance bylaw perhaps. Further, that all of the roosters be removed from the subject parcel within 14 days on the date of this decision, which would be June 4th. Option 2, that council approve the 6 chickens and 3 roosters be allowed to remain on the subject parcel as long as required as a therapeutic aid while the current occupants reside on the lands. Option 3, that council refuse the request and require that all of the animals be removed from the subject property within 30 days of the date of this decision, which would be June 21st. Or option 4, that council provide an alternative recommendation. And as I mentioned, I didn't make a recommendation other than staff recommend that the appropriate Wheatland County bylaw be amended to include provisions in anticipation of future requests of this nature. That's everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or discussion?
Okay, I'm not an avian expert. Do chickens make noise other than plucking? It's the roosters that make noise, right? It's the roosters. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Just for the sake of argument, do they make more noise than a dog?
I don't think that it needs to be punted. I think that, it's, we say that we're agriculture, and I really do think chickens are a part of it. And I do know that I have seen what, where I work, we have the same animals, and they're people come to see them all the time. And I know you guys think it's weird, but it's a part of people's lives. And I think the roosters should be gone. I think you should set guidelines, but I think it should be allowed.
Well, I understand where you're coming from, Don. I have 14 therapy cows, a couple of therapy donkeys, and 2 dogs. So I understand what you're like. But it's allowed where you're at. but it's allowed where I'm at. It's like, I agree that these things probably should stay, but how do we keep that in the framework of, there's no quote-unquote farm animals in a hamlet? If you look at where this place is at, there is a huge lot. They're on an acre, I believe they're on a 1 acre lot, and there's 2 empty 1 acre lots on either side of them. There's a lot of distance in between there. I mean, like, some people might like the sound of a rooster crowing in the morning. It's not my cup of tea, but some people might. So I just don't know where we like, I agree with, but this, you know, anything the city of Calgary's recommended, I'm against. Getting a psychiatric evaluation and all this kind of stuff. This should be something, this should be a noise bylaw thing, I think. If the roosters are making noise, get rid of the roosters. You know, and if it's a public health thing and the chickens are horribly filthy and the people aren't taking care, let's do it that way. But a bylaw, I'm sorry.
I do agree with getting rid of the roosters, but I don't, and limit your chickens, but I can't see getting rid of the whole thing.
I think if we're gonna do this, we have to look at the whole thing for everybody. Can't just do a spot one, in my opinion. Because what'll happen here is it'll happen at other places, and we're gonna end up looking at the whole thing. So I think this should be put on the back burner, looked at in planning priorities, and figure out what we have to do to make this appropriate and do it right, or don't do it at all, and just follow what we have. But just do one individual at a time, I believe is absolutely wrong. There was bylaws in place already for this.
Further discussion? There was a note further to the RFD that staff had recommended that the appropriate Wheeling County bylaw be amended to include provisions in anticipation of future requests of this nature, and I agree that that's important. Personally, I think I would like to see us looking at the land use bylaw and opportunities for both therapy animals, including of a livestock nature, as well as more urban homesteading, or, you know, that type of, I know it's a different type of agriculture, but it can still be agriculture even on smaller lots. And chickens are definitely a part of that, as well as bees and things like that. It would be something that I think we should be looking at, and that there will be increasing requests for. And I agree that it would have to be, our other bylaws would have to be taken into consideration as well. And we do have a nuisance and a noise bylaw that both could be exercised if there were issues. And so obviously the considerations couldn't override those concerns for ratepayers, but this is something I would like us to consider.
It's fine to consider it in the future, but we've got some chickens there right now and their future is in question. I can understand the roosters. They said they relocated them, so maybe they weren't, I don't know. I don't have a problem per se with a few chickens. This is a one-off for therapy. It's not mentioned in our bylaw. I don't have a problem okaying it for that. We are reactionary in nature, council. We make bylaws, on requests. We've never had a request like this. Maybe it's the only one. I wouldn't get too excited about making changes to the bylaw until we get more requests. If it's just the one, I don't have a problem. We can be site specific. I've heard there's lots of land in between. I've heard that we allow dogs and other animals, cats we've had problems with in other areas. These are fenced in. Half a dozen, 4 chickens, I think. I think if we put a limit on it, I'm okay with it. The roosters have been relocated. I'm fine with that.
I'll move option 1.
Option 1 includes approving the 6 chickens to be allowed to remain on the subject parcel for as long as required as a therapeutic aid while the current occupants reside on the lands. Further, that any violation of any other Wheatland County bylaw related to these animals will require removal of the therapy animals from the site, Further, that all of the roosters be removed from the subject parcel within 14 days of the date of this decision. Any further discussion on the motion?
Well, I read this on Saturday night, so, and I just came up with this, so you can keep ferrets and parrots, a dog or a cat, finches, canaries, or maybe a rat, hedgehogs, chinchillas, and even a snake. But 6 chickens and Chile is too much for the county to take. So let's leave it on that note.
Wow, Tom, you know what? I'm impressed.
We all are. We all are.
So I want that on the website.
Is there any further comments or discussion on the motion? All in favor? Motion is carried. What is council's position on looking at amending the land use bylaw?
I'm with Glenn. Wait till there's more.
Stuff out there that is already there.
It's coming there, yeah.
And it's coming.
What's planning's timeline for kind of relooking at the LUB?
Yeah, so Calgary actually, this is actually have made big news as of recent. If you are on Municipal Information Network, there's a lot of news articles that are being blasted about these therapy animals. It would not take a long time, to be perfectly honest with you. There's 2 ways I see this. We could look at amending and including language within the LUB, or we can look at just having a reference point in the LUB and just a standard application form that we can bring forward as one-offs. I would recommend either option's fine. I mean, it would be good to have a process in place because, as we all know, these type of therapeutic remedies are being, brought up more and more often at the municipal level. So either way is fine. I don't see it taking a long time operationally to do it because we can just pull from the city of Calgary right next door.
Council's wishes? So if within the land use bylaw there was a tie to an application, would that have to come through council or the application could be approved?
It could be approved. We could just have it as a standard process internally. However, we would, if we amend any language within the LUB, we would bring that forward, of course, but we could just make an application and do a comm strategy.
Bring back an amendment would be your preference? Yeah. My preference would be for it not to always have to come to council. I agree with Councillor Eichert's comment that it wouldn't necessarily have to be exactly modeled after the city of Calgary. Like, I was okay with the family physician that knew the patient well, providing documentation. I do like the idea of having documentation for therapy, but beyond that, and maybe that's a later conversation when we're talking about the land use bylaw, but there are some kind of urban homesteading or urban agriculture issues that I would like us to
You shouldn't need
look
a
at.
doctor's note attached to 6G.
Yes, I'm thinking some of these, it isn't always just therapeutic, it could be
Right.
organic. Yeah.
Well, and we do have hamlets, like our lot in Nameka is just under 2 acres. So, I mean, from a nuisance perspective, we could probably minimize that because of the lot sizes and things like that. Some of our hamlets do have areas that impacts would be low on adjacent neighbors. Do you need council direction formally through a motion, or would you prefer?
I think we're just going to take it back.
Okay, you can bring something back to planning and
Yeah, for sure.
priorities or something.
Do you like a hand and sit on it?
Perfect, thank you. You bet. We will recess until 10:15. We're going to call this meeting back to order. We have a planning and priority session scheduling a future meeting.
Yes, so we are just feeling out council if they'd like to schedule one for maybe mid-June, say June 19th or June 21st, or any other date that council would like.
We do have CMRB on the 21st, but the 19th would work for me.
How about the week ahead?
The week ahead. Oh, you're gone that whole week, sorry.
I'm gone that.
Tuesday, June 25th, would that work for people? Oh, you're gone 2 weeks.
The week before.
Oh, the week before, I apologize. I apologize.
Would the 13th work?
Or what if we did after MPC on Tuesday, June 11th? What about after MPC, provided it's not an overly arduous agenda? Okay. Does that work for administration?
Yes, June 11th would work for administration.
Okay.
Thank you.
I believe so.
Make it so.
I'll move to have it on after MPCO.
Yes, so Councillor Wilson's made a motion for that meeting.
Any questions? All in favor? Motion is carried.
And just a reminder, we do have something tomorrow too.
Yes. So the 18th, we were able to cancel without any penalty, like any cost, the service capacity and strategy review. I'm not sure if we will need a council meeting that day. We did have, like, it is a regular council meeting day. You want to get back to us maybe at the first meeting in June and we can
Sure. Yeah, we can do that.
see how heavy the agenda is?
Yep.
Okay. No, tomorrow's is the cultural orientation at Blackfoot Crossing. He thought it was the RMA, the blanket exercise. That's the following week.
Some more than others.
I'm going to be there.
I'll be there.
I'll be there.
Awful time trying to spray this here.
Well, if as many people as possible can make it, that's great. We're meeting at, I believe some staff were potentially being included at the Six Acre Cultural Orientation tomorrow.
Yes, so there was a calendar invite circulated out to council and some staff members. I believe it was just there could be myself and 3 other staff members that it was given to. And then we should probably make a council motion for the attendance of that meeting as well.
I do have a list of meetings from this month. Tomorrow starts at 10 o'clock and is scheduled till 2.
Oh, yeah, I have that funeral too. Shit.
Where's the
Oh,
funeral?
crap, sorry.
Drop.
Didn't even clue in what I did.
Oh,
wrong.
sorry.
I don't know, I'll check Facebook.
When is that blanket ceremony? 'Cause I don't have that in here either.
I should probably be there for 10.
Oh, sorry, I do. Yeah.
If you have to leave, you can leave when you need to leave.
Monday night.
Monday at 5 o'clock.
27 o'clock?
The 27th.
That's at the
Blackfoot Crossing. Historical Park, yep. Okay. I did add a motion to ratify council attendance at meetings. If somebody wants to make a motion to approve, there was a number of meetings we attended in May.
I'll move for ratification on May 13th emergency plan open house for councilors. Crossing Historical Park and the 27th of May. History.
Is there any questions or discussion? The blanket exercise. That's the RMA and the AUMA that we're collaborating with the villages on. Yeah, at 5 p.m. Here, is it going to be here?
Yes, that's correct. It will be in the ECC.
Perfect.
I won't be here on this.
Okay. All in favor? Motion is carried. We have an RFD regarding the terms of reference for the Open Space, Recreation, and Culture Master Plan. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The Open Space and Recreation Master Plan terms of reference was revised based on the comments from the last meeting. So I can answer any questions or around that.
Any questions from council? So there were some amendments made to have more of the plan done in-house by staff. I did have one comment. Under the guiding principles and purpose, I wasn't sure if council would consider, under number 1, we have pertains specifically to Wheatland County. I was just wondering if we might consider adding some wording within a regional context, just so that that's kind of a top kind of notion that we're considering what's available regionally and what's used regionally. But other than that, I appreciated, I think really good work was done on the comments that council made. I like that the majority of it can be done in-house. I didn't think it was a bad idea to outsource some of the public consultation for the rationale given for objectivity and timeliness.
My only thought was when you do the public, working with the public and meeting with the groups, would it be okay if the counselors were there? Like I just want to make sure that, and can you make sure that we're notified that when that happens?
Good point.
Yes, we can do that for sure.
Everything else looked good.
Any other questions or comments regarding the terms of reference? Would you like a motion to approve?
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, Council. So on page 126 of your agenda, the CAO bylaw has been presented. There was a minor revision to the CAO bylaw, and what that was just removing, there was a duplicate designation as the FOIPED. So kind of what we've done here internally to kind of reduce the burden on the CAO is have the General Manager of Corporate and Financial Services act as the FOIPED. So what that position does is they review all documents before they kind of get circulated out. So they're kind of, they meet that criteria anyway. So that was the only thing amended in the bylaw. So what we did was we are going to repeal the previous bylaw, which was 2013-06, and just make a new bylaw 2019-18.
There's just a small revision to
Yes,
make it
just a very
consistent with
small
our FOIP bylaw. Is there any questions? If not, we would consider 3 readings of the minor revision. A motion for first reading? Donna has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. Second reading? Ben, all in favor? Motion is carried. Permission for third reading? Jason has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried unanimously. Third reading? Glenn has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.
After we made this bylaw, the FOIP in there, I don't know if there was a motion appointing a former general manager to be the FOIP head. That was Jim, I think. I don't know if that motion has to be looked at or if you're even aware of it, or I kind of forgot that we had 2 FOIP heads. I forgot all about it being in this bylaw.
So through the chair, administration can certainly look into that. We have updated all of the external stakeholders who the FOIP head is, but that one specifically I can look into and ensure that's corrected. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we did check, like the FOIP bylaw now will be consistent with that, but if you can just make sure there's not a contradictory motion. Some amendments to our HR policy.
Yes. So through the chair, on page 132 of the agenda package, there's been some revisions to some of the HR policies. So what we've done is, back at the end of 2018, we did a complete overhaul of our HR policies. So through consultation with staff and with council, we had kind of identified some minor changes or tweaking that need to be made to these policies to ensure that they're working as we anticipated. So any changes, there's 4 changes to 4 different policies, so 1 change per policy, and all those changes are highlighted in red.
Are there any questions or discussion regarding the amendments? A motion to approve? Tom has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. We have an RFD regarding a request for payment from the WRC.
Yes, so on page 146 of your agenda package is just a payment request from the Wheatland Regional Corporation. So currently there's an outstanding receivable with the Wheatland Regional Corporation of about 4.5. So at the May 7th council meeting, there was a motion from council for administration to contact the other administration, the managing partner, to determine the amount of the receivable and just kind of see if there's anything else outstanding. So that has been undertaken. I'm meeting with the CAO of the Village of Rockyford on May 23rd. Yeah, to go over that. So.
That's, I know we made that motion last meeting. That's work in process, I'm sure. As far as having a motion that board members go to another meeting and request payment, that's just part of our job. We can't expect full payment because I don't believe the money's there, and I don't know exactly how the breakdown is until we're reconciled with the village. I can certainly ask for a partial payment, that part's okay, but what the final breakdown is, and I believe tonight at the board meeting, there will be a breakdown from the village on what the financial situation looks like. So I would just ask for council's indulgence and wait till after we have that presentation and see what's fair to ask. It'll become clearer, I believe. We have a few minutes. reconciliation has been done with the village and Alberta Environment. I've always reported to council that there is a discrepancy, not a discrepancy. Money was spent out of that funding to pay for the operation of the WRC and would be money owing to the province. The province has reconciled the accounts and they're square with everything. There's a little surplus. I'm thinking, I was told we'll apply for phase 3 if and when that comes. But that being reconciled with the province, I don't know how much the province paid for some of these operation funding. And at any rate, these operation funding will be part of the reconciliation with the county. So when we find out exactly what the balance is, we can't ask for full refund because I don't believe the money's going to be there. I don't know. It's just a shot in the dark. We can ask for a partial payment after tonight we see the books. That part is kosher. And just for council's information, I believe the town has paid 2 payments of $2 million each in the past.
Yes, so through the chair, that is correct. In June of 2018, there was 2 payments made for $2 million.
Yeah, and then
so 4 million total.
And none of them payments were asked for, and none of them were a motion by anybody. They were just done, and they were ratified at a meeting, but the payments were done. So we have change of managers now. We have change of everything, basically, diff change here. I would just make the motion, how much you're asking for. Maybe they have the $2.5 million, I'm hoping so. I'm optimistic that the province chipped in on it, but I'm not sure what it is, and we won't know until the books are ratified. Thinking anything that's given to us from the province would be, can't even say it was given to, it was just lumped into something else. I don't know, I can't speak to it until I know what the numbers are. I just have to know what them numbers are.
The last meeting, the information we got from WRC, Rocky Ford's got $3.5 million sitting in their bank account, so I'm thinking that asking for $2.5 million now would probably be proper, because I
At 4 million, maybe we can ask. I want to make the motion, fine. Like, county's never made a motion requesting anybody to pay for a bill. We don't go to a ratepayer and ask to pay your water bill. We'll make a motion. Outside of current practice that we make a motion to ask for payment. That's all I'm saying.
So my understanding from our follow-up from the MP's visit is that the grant funding both provincially and federally has been paid to the board or to the Wheatland Regional Corporation. Has the board been given a timeline of when those funds were received?
Last fund was received after the last meeting. Reported that was not paid. It wasn't all paid up. I think all the funds have been done and the ratification has been done. That part is done. The next step in the process is ratification. Exactly what difference between the auditor of the Rocky Ford books, what the county said we paid, and what we didn't pay. That has to be sorted through. When we get that sorted through, we'll know, we'll have the final number. Interim payment, there's nothing wrong with that. has been done. The next step of the process is the ratification process. It's just something that has to be done.
My concern from being in this chair right now, not on WRC board, is that's a substantial amount of money with a substantial amount of interest on every month. And I'm okay if it's delayed as long as we get the interest on that too, once the project is closed. Because it was a loan, in my opinion. It didn't have a borrowing bylaw attached to it, but it was a loan to get it done. And we should get it back because the money's in their account. They said that at the last meeting was 3.5. If it's more, that's great. I believe to get the ball rolling, this will get some of it back. I don't believe it's needed for anything in the future. And further to that, if we're gonna, I think council needs to have a motion of council to support any future, even Rosebud or whatever, for that funds, it has to be done the right way with the borrowing.
Be formalized.
Be formalized without just leaving that money in there. That's how I want to see it done, so it's all clear for everybody.
When this money, the deal was cut with the province, and they were going to pay the interest. Province has since reneged on that, and they're not paying the interest. There was an agreement made. There's agreements made for the transfer of assets. There's agreements made that the money be paid back. It was all formal process. That's done. It was done. Agreements are in place. We will get our money. If it comes to Rosebud, we wait for the funding agreement, and if we're going to fund it in between time, the provinces will go cross that bridge when it comes. But agreements were made, and they were signed. Where they are, I don't know. I haven't seen them. That's fine. To suggest that we just give money willy-nilly, no. This was an agreement with the province, and the province reneged. As far as paying interest, I think that's a good topic for tonight to bring up at the board. We were told we would get interest from the province. They reneged on it. I believe this money in the village is holding is in a, what do you call that? It's not a trust. It's in a separate bank account. It's in a certificate. GIC, yes, thanks for that. So there would be interest on it. I'm thinking it would be a good question to ask tonight. Who's going to get that interest? As far as us demanding interest after the deal's done, that's kind of bad, but we could ask. Being that it's there and it hasn't paid out, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think it's appropriate, to say the least.
These agreements that you speak of, are they in this office? That's my concern. I just want to make sure that we have that, because public money.
So I could not locate any agreements on this.
Lost tonight, the village, I imagine that's where they are. There's a transfer of assets. Those agreements were supposed to have been signed.
If we could get copies, I think it would help our administration sort out, and just for council's information as well. I wouldn't mind just seeing a timeline of when the funds came in provincially and federally as well, just for some context of how long they've been with the managing partner. If that's available to board members to bring back to council.
I'm sure it's part of the package all the time. There's always a sheet there telling you where the funding is and what it is. It's always been documented there. I can't even go back. It was part of the package on a monthly basis.
The more recent packages that I've seen only showed operating funding, not necessarily capital funding.
I don't know.
That'd be great.
Well, letter, are we supposed to ask WRC or are we supposed to ask? That's the problem.
Later. Talk about the letter now? Talk about the letter now?
We'll do that following correspondence. There is a suggested motion just requesting that partial payment. Council's wishes.
I tend to agree with Glenn. I think if the question is asked at the meeting tonight, you get the information you need there, but I agree with him. We don't, unless they're in arrears, we don't go after our partners or ratepayers and ask them for payment of, unless there's been an issue and they're in arrears of payments. That's the only time we would request payment. I think you guys go to the meeting tonight and find out what's what, and then come back and make the decision after that, but I don't think we need a motion now to request the funding.
Please do find out anything you can on the interest.
There's a motion on the floor. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor? Motion is carried. There was correspondence circulated. Thank you from the Wheatland Crisis Society for the donation from Safety Day. 2 letters from the Village of Standard, one regarding a thank you for CRISP funding, outlining the projects that the donations went towards, as well as a letter regarding concerns surrounding dust control. Would council like to have a look at that? Complaints from residents from vehicles using Christian Avenue and 9th Avenue. The village is appealing to the county on behalf of the residents that live along these 2 roads in requesting if the county would consider putting down some dust control.
We have a policy that we apply dust control in the hamlets. We've also applied dust control in the village of Rockefort. I'm not sure about these roads in Standard. When the oil companies used to pay for the project, we partnered. These roads are, the one in Rockefort I'm speaking specifically on, the ones in Standard I'm not as familiar with, are it's a bypass through town, and it's mostly rural people that drive on them. And if it was in a hamlet, it would be dust controlled. And we've applied it before. We maintain the road with the grader. I don't have a problem in hamlets or villages, and we've applied dust control in the town of Strathmore for their ag grounds. We've done the whole thing. I don't see this as any much different.
So Christian Avenue is the east, it comes in from the west onto the 840, and 9th Avenue comes in from the east. So they are kind of the
They're main
thoroughfares.
roads
Yeah.
to get to the highway, I know that.
And you said historically council has provided dust control in the village of Rockefort?
We've applied it in Rockefort. supplied it and put it on. No. The product was paid for by the oil company. It was a partnership. More at the egg grounds, yeah, last year. Done other shorter strip last year, we did the whole thing.
Yeah, to me, it's a good neighbor thing. We've, I know in Rocky Ford and in Hazard both, I'm not sure standard, but I'm sure if we asked the operators, they'd say yes. Our graders have maintained those roads for, ever since they became a village, and we don't charge them for it. It's just, but, so I don't see any difference between that and putting a little bit of dust control down when they're out there. Keep a record of it and track it so we can show that that just goes to the good neighbor thing, but we keep a record of where we put it in, so we've got that.
Somebody want to make a motion to that effect?
I'd like to know how much it costs for all this stuff. Like, it's gotta have a cost value, the linear meters, and we gotta have a way of making sure it's fair for everybody if we're gonna do this. So,
I'd look at an
a couple
RFD for
months
the
down the
cost.
road, someone says they want 6 blocks done, and these guys are wanting a block, so it's has some justification for it. That's just me, like.
If we do keep track, can we
Yes, for sure. So we do keep track of in-kind as well. So we can present that back to council. There is a budget line in the budget for in-kind donations, and that's also kind of blended with cash donations as well. So if you're ever looking for that line, it's under 21202 277000. It's under the administration budget. Previous council, and it's come up before, so we do report on it fairly regularly, but I think we report usually on an annual basis, but we could bring that back quarterly if
Even
that's council
annually,
wish.
I'm fine. We don't have any kind of policy, though, that shapes what we fund for in-kind or that kind of thing, I don't think.
No, it's usually on a request basis, and some requests are fairly consistent, like year over year. A good example is the Strathmore Handy Bus. They come and yeah, they're CVIP, so that's in kind, and they also ask for a cash donation as well. So that eats up about half the budget. I think that budget's around like 72,000 for 2019.
So we started tracking, through the chair, we started tracking this a few years back in 10, 12, somewhere back there, due to a comment made by a minister in Edmonton where, I won't go into the history of that, but anyways, he made a comment, and I talked to our president of the AAMD&C at that time. I got up the next day and responded to the minister's comment. But since that time, municipalities have been tracking everything that they do, whether it's in kind or whether it's billed or whatever it is, so that, yeah, we've been getting it on a yearly basis. I've still got a couple of them here. I could go back and show you exactly what we spent on this. And that way, when they come to us and tell us that we're not helping them, we can bring that up and show them. We can prove that we've spent $1 million or $2 million in the last 2 years in each one of these little towns. So once a year is good enough for me, just so that we have a running record of what it is and where it is.
I would really like to see a cost on this. I mean, I don't think I have a problem with it, but I would really like to see what that number is, that to do dust control on these two streets, like on anything that we're gonna do. I'd like to see a number attached to everything that for when they ask for the request for decision.
So we could ask, so they've just submitted correspondence, we could direct staff to prepare an RFD. Just, we have the costing for applying or for the product. We don't charge for the application for dust control to our ratepayers, but we have the linear foot cost for product.
Yeah, so that would be correct. However, when we're applying the dust control, we also have to consider that it does involve staff time and machinery costs to get out there to apply the dust control.
So we could just direct administration to prepare an RFD with distances and cost.
The fundamental problem I have with this is the costs are fine and everything, but we have a policy that says so many vehicles per day and you get that in the county of Wheatland for our own residents. This is for people that are not taxpayers within the county of Wheatland, and we're going around that. And I fundamentally disagree with that.
I think back to Councillor Armstrong's comment, though, because these are thoroughfare, like an east-west kind of transport corridor through the village, it is our ratepayers that could be, you know, obviously contributing to the nuisance factor for our neighbors, and I agree that it's a good neighbor practice, and so I would support it. I don't mind seeing costing on it first, but I am also aware that it's probably a timeliness issue as well for the ratepayers.
And
Or
for
those community members, sorry.
my apologies. For the record, with the Strathmore Ag one, I disagreed with that too for the very same reasons. I think it's just something that I will hold my ground on that. I've had lots of residents talk to me about things like this, and they don't want their tax dollars going there.
We've asked this question's been just talked about before. What happens? The village of Rockefort bans the road. That's it. It's worse than a bridge. You can't. Our traffic for our ratepayers is stopped. It's their road. They're allowing us to use it. And it could be banned. And that would add, I have no way of getting across the river. I have to go right up our bad road, almost up to the number 9 to get around. And I'm not the only one. The roads were designed in such a way to be connected to the county. That village doesn't need that road. County does. Maybe, in that way of thinking, maybe we should have to buy the road from the village. I don't know. But it's part of a good neighbor policy. I don't mind costing it. Staff bring it back, request for decision. You want a traffic count on it? Put a traffic count on it. I know the traffic is going to be well in excess. It might even be high enough that we pave it. The road is heavily used. So my only concern is if we're going to do a request for this dust control, we know that we do Hazard, and we used to do Rockefort. I didn't do it last year because of the oil funding that were backed away. They haven't requested it. Are we going to do it for all the villages, get a request for a decision? Or are we going to encourage them to make an application that they ask for the dust control? That's my only question. And if we don't help out our neighbors, they'll be part of us. We've heard that from the province, and a lot of their grants are moving away from MSI to collaboration grants.
I'm not sure if council would consider, for efficiency, because it sounds like some of these in-kind donations happen on a regular basis, but possibly a policy around things like if it's consistently every year we're doing dust control for the villages, if staff could look at preparing some kind of policy where, you know, on certain roads that county ratepayers are utilizing or creating nuisance, we provide dust control on those roads. It could be brought back to council with transparency about what the cost would be, and then it would just circumvent the villages having to come every year to request. It's just an idea.
And further to that, when we paved the Rockefort Road, Rockefort didn't have the money to pay for that paved section that goes through the town. So the county became managing. The County took that road over. That's our road going right through the village now. We're responsible to pave it, paint it, sand it, gravel it, whatever it takes to maintain that road. That is county road going through the village. Just so we could have an unbanned surface going through. Otherwise, what would be the point of having paved road with having a bands? No different than Strathmore. There was talk about paving a road. Theirs is oiled. It'll be banned, so why would we pave a road when it's a paved road going nowhere? These projects have been well thought out, and maybe it's a more appropriate place that we talk about this stuff at a committee of the whole or planning and priorities type meeting than taking up time here. But these are in place for a reason, and just to stop them without any thought or discussion is, I have a hard time with it. I don't have a hard time explaining what went on in my time here or why we did things, but I think it's important that everybody be part of it.
I'll move that we honor the request of the Standard Council for the dust control of those two roads as it applies to the reuse of our ratepayers, and at the same time get a costing from staff as to what the cost is on that, but that we move ahead with the I'm not going to change my mind whether it's once I see the costing and whether or not we do the job or not. So
just a comment for then, would you be willing to?
On an annual basis.
no, I don't think I want to do that, because they may decide if we do it, if we put it in a motion that's.
They might not decide to. Yeah, no, I get where you're coming from. You don't even have to do their priority.
So a motion to accept the request for this year and approve it, and request that staff bring back information regarding the cost.
Costing has to be done anyway to put it on our.
Right, so just report that back to council.
All this stuff, I'd like to see like a deadline of November of the previous year for applications for everybody, so we know what's coming in like everything else that we do. So it's a one-shot deal. So it's not individual piece here, there. So we know overhand what it is, and it's always the same thing. And we can, I'd rather see that. So you don't have to keep having this discussion over and over again.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind that either, just so you. I don't mind doing it. I mean, I fully support it.
So let's consider the motion on the floor, and then we can further discuss kind of a policy or a procedure.
We can add it to committee.
Sure.
This isn't the time to.
Any further discussion regarding the motion on the floor? All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. Correspondence from Mayor Burke with the Village of Rocky Ford was circulated. Just give council a moment to review it. Oh, I'm sorry. There was, yes, I'm sorry. I apologize. There is the SEWA agenda as well. I'd like to extend an invitation. I did email it out from the Glacian and District Community Hall Board has invited us to their open house. And as well, there are the minutes from the Wheatland Interagency Council. I do just want to highlight what a huge variety of supports and services we have available in our region, and I think it's always really good to see those minutes and what's available. Is there any further questions or discussion regarding the correspondence? A motion to accept? Donna has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. My apologies for that, jumping to over that. Now we can address the correspondence from Mayor Burke from the Village of Rocky Ford.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just kind of curious. I know last meeting we asked staff to get the books reconciled. I'm curious as to why staff went directly to Alberta Environment and requested this information. It is the village's grant money. It is theirs. I'm just curious why. Do we have an answer for that, or is it something I should ask the people that did it?
So through the chair, I believe that one of our staff members contacted Alberta Transportation in regards to the grant funding, just to see kind of the status of it, where it was. And, you know, it also could be that part of the reasoning for that is it was just very unclear of the process that staff should undertake to kind of determine that. So now with the letter from the mayor of Rocky, or the mayor of the Village of Rockyford, now we do have the correct channels. We have been following the correct channels since the letter has been received. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking, if that's, I'm fine with the explanation, but we always answer a letter. I think a letter should be sent to the village that a mistake was made, and we'll be following the correct protocol in the future.
The only thing
I know it's hard to, the Village of Rocky Ford, it's their infrastructure, it's their grant, it's on their books. They share it, everything with the WRC through their own way of being a partnership. But it is theirs as a municipality. They're the ones that own it. They're the ones that are responsible for it. It's hard to draw the lines and the right channels where everything goes, your lane, so to say. But the bottom line, the deal was between Rocky Ford and Alberta Environment. There are agreements signed that this grant money the municipality has to own it for 5 or 6 years. I'm not 100% sure how long. And if they dispose of it before that time, they're responsible to pay back all the grant money. So there are agreements in place that once that warranty period or that time period is done, it all gets transferred into the WRC at no cost. And yeah, the books are audited, part of the Village of Rocky Ford's audit procedures, and costs are kept track of. But it's important for us as a municipality to be mindful of proper protocol when dealing with our neighbors. It's just a comment. But I still think, I don't believe we need a motion to reply to this letter. I think it's just a matter of course that we reply to all letters, and that's why I wanted it on the agenda today, just to be dealt with. I don't find it a big issue. It's just that we made a mistake and stepped out of our lane. And send them a letter and be done with it.
I don't think we stepped out of our lane.
I need to research a little bit more the role of the financial managing municipality and just how that role works, because I need to understand that a little bit better myself, but.
I
And
don't
what-
believe there was any ill intent done by staff at all.
No.
I know the conversation that we had had with them was, I came from a board meeting and there was no funding, or waiting for funding. The very next day, all of a sudden it comes in. There's some questions of that, so they wanted clarity. That's all they were looking for, was clarity. Did they ask directly to the source? Yeah. Is it a big deal? No. It's all public money. Because it went to one partner or the other, it's still public money. The more transparent we are, all of us, is better.
We've all been looking for clarity
And
since
we've all been
we
looking for
sat down
clarity.
at this
And it's
table,
no- I
basically.
don't, if anybody's offended by that, it doesn't bother me, because it's public money. We have to be clear on this. And it'll be better for all of us to be clear. That's all I'm saying. This offending stuff, I don't like it at all, because we will never get anywhere. Try asking questions. That's all we're doing, is asking questions and trying to get clarity for staff, for council, for WRC, not trying to offend anybody. Questions should never make anybody offended. Just questions, looking for answers. That's all we're doing, is looking for answers. That's all. That's all I gotta say.
In this day and age, when you're asking somebody for a request that's done by email, it would take nothing to CC the municipality you're looking at. It's no different than any other municipality. It's just respect, is all I'm saying. I'm not, nobody's trying to hide anything. And the money, I'm sure, come in after the fact. Some was there before. Did it all come? No, but that has been reported.
Do you know when the last time the capital funding was reported? Because I
We'll
have,
find out tonight, and I'm sure there'll be papers there, and we can make sure it gets reported in council here, exactly what it is.
do you recall capital reporting since you've sat on their board? And I don't recall seeing it from the previous board representatives.
Yes.
Okay. That concludes our public part of our agenda until our appointment at 1 o'clock. We do have some closed session agenda items. We will have a motion to move into camera.
So moved.
Jason has moved. All in favor? Motion is carried. We'll move into the committee room.
I like this chair better.